Media, a global voice for humanity.
8:54 exactly, and over the next few days, we're going to be talking long and hard about the 16 days of activism of no violence against women and children. Yesterday, we spoke to Dr. Shaida Umar. Today, we're talking to Anele Mda, public speaker and gender and social activist. Morning, welcome to the program, and let's go to the heart of the matter, Anele. And we do know that the theme for 2021 is the year of Charlotte Maxeke, 16 days of activism, moving from awareness to accountability. Talk to us about that theme.
Good morning, Juliet, and thank you for having me. The theme for this year, as you've just correctly coined it, that is moving from awareness to accountability. One would, pause and begin to ponder if indeed in the context of South Africa and the statistics as we know them and we have seen them and they have been published as well, whether such a theme really does resonate with our country and does do any kind of shaking the ground to say it's a theme that we can rally anyone behind it and want to see it, driving the message to a point where we can safely say, indeed, there is accountability. As I know, and many South Africans know that in this country, statistics currently say that at every 3 hours, about 10 women are murdered in South Africa. And that's just about those cases that are reported. But we know the vastness of this country, that there's so much that is happening to women and girl children that even that three hours that says every 3 hours 10 women are murdered in South Africa, it may well be that it's more. But the only record that we know up to so far is that at least there's 10 women that get murdered in 3 hours. But the question therefore for us, for the relevance of the theme that says moving from awareness to accountability, what exactly can we say has been done thus far that demonstrates the willingness for that accountability to happen, and who can we point that at least we can say these structures have demonstrated the willingness to be accountable or to be held accountable, or our leaders have been accountable. And I would dare say the picture looks so gloomy for South Africa to have such a theme to even have an effect and be regarded as a theme that means anything to the women of South Africa.
You're a public speaker and you are a gender and social activist. What do you believe ought to happen to start changing the mindsets? We're in a very, very patriotic society and we need to start changing things. We also need to raise our boy children differently, raise them to respect women and girls, with the same respect that they're called their fathers and other patriarchal figures in their lives.
Very correct, Julia. The thing for me as an activist, as a person who's always on the ground and who on a regular basis is interacting directly with people that are in the cold face of all these ordeals, my strong belief is that, for instance, if we're talking about reorientating the manner in which we grow or we bring up a boy child, it can never happen in a society where we still have monster kind of men who believe that women are just objects for sexual objectification, for sexual satisfaction, but also women are just objects where men can exercise their authority and where men can exercise their masculinity. So even if we may want, as women, as committed as we may be, want to reorientate a young boy and want to bring a boy child in a different manner altogether, kind of commitment will fall flat on deaf ears, because the problem is not with the boy child. The problem is the men of South Africa that we have. The problem is the kind of character that the men of South Africa have adopted in as far as girl and women children are concerned in this country. And also, over and above that, when we ourselves as activists and women, we begin to give credence to this kind of monstrosity that we see in the character of men that we live, if we continue to have certain segments of our society in us as women, believing that when a woman says, this is what has happened to me, this is what a man has done, if some of us are going to jump and say, because of the status of this man, because of the extent of wealthy that this man commands in society, and the extent of leadership positions that this man commands in society, we're going to start to punch holes in what the women say. We are also going to be the ones who are going to reverse our own struggle. We are also going to be the ones who are going to punch holes in our own cause, and we're also going to be the same people who are going to perpetuate the very gender-based violence, which is a byproduct of patriarchy. Because the only reason we are where we are, Julia, essentially, is simply because men in their totality, men in their massive numbers, believe that any injustice that happens to a woman does not warrant a societal rise against it. Instead, it must be normalized. Because if you could dare ask the question, if things were to be changed, if roles were to be changed, what would have been the state of our society if men were the ones who were pushed by women like this? Would it have gotten to a point where it is? Would it have been accepted and be allowed to be normalized the way it has? I dare say no. Men would have really stood up against it, and they would have brought it to a dead end. But because it's a byproduct of patriarchy, which serves men, no one wants to do anything about it.
Absolutely. My final question to you. It's really up to you and I and other women like ourselves to put a stop to this. Where and how do you think we need to be working? What do we do to start changing mindsets and start changing behaviors? Because as you said, I spoke to Shaida yesterday, and she said to me, she agreed, we've been talking about this issue for the past 30 years, and it seems nothing has changed. How do we start making those changes?
The changes will begin with a very deliberate and intentional stance from government, Julia. That's to send a very strong message that we shall not have judges who will use a status of a rapist in order to pass the maximum sentence. The attitude from government that says we shall not have policies that will be passed just to decorate offices and decorate papers and just to tick boxes, but we shall pass policies that will be used to ensure that the justice system of South Africa has got a well-coordinated approach when it comes to both opening of cases, the speedily attention that gets given to those cases, and the merciless conviction that gets passed to those who are accused of heinous crimes against women and children, especially those ones that are about gender-based violence. But over and above that, we will have to have a very changed mindset of men in South Africa who must never think that when they have not experienced gender-based violence in their own homes, then they can continuously shield and embrace those that continue to be perpetrators of gender-based violence in South Africa. Lastly, one thing that government must do, and do very deliberately and be very intentional about it, is that we must not have people's names being shielded. The sexual offense register must be published, and people's names must be named and shamed, must be put there. It must begin to have consequences, and those consequences must go as far as closing doors for people professionally, career-wise, and everything else that is a game must be lost by anyone who is a perpetrator of gender-based violence. Those are significant, meaningful, tangible changes that we can do, and that will make this monstrosity of our society to go away. Because women, Julia, do not owe themselves safety, because men do not worry about their safety. They wake up, live like any ordinary citizen. That's all that women of South Africa and girl children in this country deserve as well.
Anele Mda, you couldn't have said it better. 10 gold stars to you for this amazing piece and your views on gender-based violence. You go well, and just keep that flag flying as high as you can. What a pleasure to talk to you. It is exactly 9 o'clock.
Breaking stereotypes, moving boundaries.